If I had to learn Hebrew from scratch, here's what I would do and what I would never do. Shalom. My name is Inbal. I've been teaching Hebrew for years as a born and raised Israeli, working and living in English. And if I had to learn Hebrew, my native language, as an English speaker, I'd do everything differently than what's being taught out there. Let me show exactly what I would do and the massive mistakes that I would avoid at all costs. After working professionally in Hebrew and in English for decades, and then living in my second language, English, in Europe and then in America, I've seen exactly where English speakers get stuck trying to learn Hebrew. And here's what breaks my heart. Most Hebrew programs and teachers set you up for failure from day one. Not because they don't want you to succeed, not because Hebrew is impossible, but because they're teaching it completely wrong for how your English-speaking brain actually learns Hebrew. So today, I'm taking off my teacher's hat and putting myself in your shoes. If I had to learn Hebrew from zero, knowing everything I know now, here's my step-by-step game plan. First, I choose one priority: speaking and understanding or reading and writing. Whatever is your immediate goal. I would not do both together. Let me explain why. Traditional Hebrew programs and most teachers force you to learn everything at the same time. Reading and writing, the entire new alphabet that you don't know, with the entire vowel system that is very different from English, and everything that has to do with speaking and understanding, pronunciation, grammar, syntax, vocabulary, everything at once. It's like trying to learn how to play the piano while learning music notation all together on day one. You're overwhelming your brain with two very different skills. Not to mention that some people want to be able to read and write Hebrew right now, today. Some people are like, no, I don't want to read and write right now. I want to be able to speak and understand because I'm going to Israel. I have Israeli family and friends. I want to understand the news. So think about it for a second. What would you want more than anything to do right now? Read and write Hebrew or speak and understand it? If it's speaking and understanding, I would focus on a phonetic system that allows you to bypass the letters, reading and writing all together. Focus your time and energy in getting clarity and confidence in speaking Hebrew, and very important, in a way that is clear and understood to us Israelis, to the local ear. Learning how to transition from English to Hebrew, because we have many similarities randomly between English and Hebrew, and we have many differences. But one thing's for sure, and I can tell you that from experience, we always think in our native language. No matter how good my English is, I always count in Hebrew and I always think in Hebrew. It does get better over time, but learning how to transition from your native language, probably English because you're watching this video, into Hebrew is a complete game changer. If the thing that you want most right now is to be able to read and write, the Bible, street signs in Israel, books, news, whatever it is, focus on that, on learning the alphabet that is completely new to you, the sounds that each letter makes, the vowel system, which is the vowel letters, and the nikud, the dots and lines around the letters that serve as our vowel system. How to write properly. In Hebrew, unlike in English, you need to be able to at least identify both print letters and cursive script, because you will see both in Israel. We use cursive script for our handwriting, but unlike cursive script in English, in Hebrew, you need to know both. So focus on your immediate goal: speaking and understanding or reading and writing. And if it's both, choose one. Then once you get more clarity and confidence in that skill, add the other one. It is the perfect recipe to avoid the overwhelm that gets so many people to just quit. Second, and this is critical, I'd find a learning setting that actually fits into my life. Here's the truth. Learning a language is not a sprint. It's a long game. So I look at my actual life, my work schedule, my kids' activities, travel plans, busy seasons, my health or other limitations, and choose a format that allows me to stay in the game in the long run. Here's what I'd look for. as much flexibility as I need to learn whenever and wherever I am, the ability to pause and pick up where I left off if I know that I need to, and even if not, because life always happens, even if we don't plan it. No pressure to show up at a specific time is always a huge advantage. And being able to learn at a pace I can actually maintain going through different seasons in life. Again, it's not a sprint. It's a long game. Life happens. Kids get sick, work gets crazy, life gets crazy. We need to take care of someone or take care of ourselves. We need to travel, and things that we didn't think of happen. Is the program I'm in, the setting I use to learn Hebrew, flexible enough? Will give me access? Will allow me to go at my pace, stop and go back, no matter what happens? Third, I'd make sure I never get stuck. I can tell you personally, I started my career as a translator. I would translate from English to Hebrew, and at some point when I felt comfortable, I would translate from Hebrew to English. And translating from Hebrew to English, English not being my native language, although I always had a good English, I knew that there is a gap that I can never erase. And when I became a Hebrew educator, I could say from experience, if you want to learn a language, your teacher has to be a native, born and raised in that language. If you want to learn Hebrew, please learn Hebrew from a native, born and raised Israeli that has a good level of Hebrew, that knows the language very well. And now back to my point, make sure that you have access to that teacher. So it's threefold. Make sure you have access to a teacher to ask them any question that comes up so you never get stuck. Make sure you know that that teacher is a born and raised Israeli speaking very good Hebrew, knowing it very well to the point that they can teach it. And third, that they give you feedback. Not only do you never get stuck because you can ask any question that comes up, which is critical, but you know how well you're applying and implementing everything that you learn. You're getting feedback on your work. Otherwise, you have no way of knowing what are you doing great and what needs some more work. Because here's what no one tells you. Confusion and overwhelm are the two major factors that make people quit learning Hebrew. When people hit a wall and have no one to turn to, that's when a lot of people quit. When people get overwhelmed because they're doing too much at the same time when they don't have to, that is when they quit. When people feel I have no idea if I'm doing this well or not, again, confusion, that is when they quit. How will I know going out to the world? Am I speaking in a way that is clear to people, or will I make a complete fool of myself? That is not where you want to be when you pick up a new language. And step 4, I check 2 things rigorously. The first, am I showing up and doing the work? I am part of a program. I'm following a method. It is giving me the steps. Am I showing up and doing the work? If you check that and you know the answer is yes, the thing to ask yourself over and over again, and you can start asking yourself this after days to weeks. I recommend weeks, but it doesn't have to be months. It can be weeks. Do I have more clarity and confidence in Hebrew? Both. Do I feel that my level of clarity and confidence is increasing? If the answer is no, it does not mean that you don't have what it takes to learn Hebrew, that you're too old, that you're too busy. If you showed up and you did the work, your level of clarity and your level of confidence should increase. And I'm saying that because it happens to my students over and over and over again within days in my programs. So I know it's possible. And it should happen to you if it's a structured program, you are showing up and doing the work, you should feel more clarity and more confidence in Hebrew. If it's not, this is a red flag that maybe this is not the right method for you or the right guide or both. And I would highly recommend considering pivoting because, first of all, you deserve to get to where you want to be, especially if you did the work. And second, because our time is the most valuable resource. If you're investing your time in something, you should get the results that you want to see. Now, I promised that I would tell you the 2 things that I would definitely never do. One of them, I would never take the cheap or free option. Cheap or free is great, it's wonderful when it can get us to where we want to be. Learning a language is a very long game, and in my opinion, as someone who is actually living in her second language, which is English, living in the US, married to an American who is learning Hebrew but doesn't speak Hebrew before he met me, it is a lifelong journey. If you ask me, it is too big and complex of a project to just pick up free resources online or go for the cheapest app. The good news is that it is very easy to test if it's working. Going back to my last point, you're picking up free resources online, mine included. I always say very honestly and in a very transparent way, I do not teach in my free resources. My free resources are supposed to show you that you can, giving you samples, and more importantly, they are there for people who finished and completed my programs for reading and writing, for speaking and understanding, or both, to maintain everything that they learned, practice it on a daily basis, and build on everything that they learned. That is what my free resources are for. I don't teach in my free resources. I teach in my structured programs because there I am right next to you, giving you feedback and guidance so you never get stuck. I would never send you to learn on your own. So if you are choosing a very fun or cheap or available app, or just picking up on anything free that you find online, test yourself. You are doing this, you are showing up, doing the work for several days to weeks. After a few weeks, is your clarity and confidence much better than where they were a few weeks ago? Or do you feel overwhelmed, confused, not sure, stuck, have a lot of questions, a lot of question marks, not sure how are you doing, how is it going? So you can see for yourself. One thing's for sure, when you're getting progress, you will feel it, because that's the thing about experiencing wins when it comes to a new language. You may think that the progress is small, but the subjective win, the motivation, the reward that you're feeling does not match how big or small you think the win is. I can promise you that the sense of reward that you're feeling of, I did this, I said my first word, I constructed my first sentence, I had my first conversation with an Israeli, I impressed locals. It will be so far greater than what you think in theory it will be. That's the beauty of it. That's when you know you're on the right track. When you have wins after wins after wins, and even if on paper you think that they're small, they feel so big because they are. The second thing that I would never do is try to achieve fluency. Put fluency, the peak of the mountain objective, in front of my eyes and say, I'm running towards fluency. Why wouldn't I do that? First, because when you take on a big project, looking at the peak of the mountain only makes it look very, very intimidating. It is much more efficient to break it down to smaller steps and look at the steps that are in front of you and getting there. And from there, you get to the next steps. So if you are on level 1, just random number, try to get to level 2, not to level 34. And the second reason, which I always say, fluency is not a measurable, objective goal. I have been speaking English since I was 4. I am living in English. I worked in English almost my entire life. There was never a day where I was like, oh, good morning, I am fluent. And even if there was and I missed it, it didn't change anything. Here's the hard truth that you need to know. English as my second language will never feel as comfortable, as easy, as good as my first language. I will always feel in Hebrew as I am in my slippers, much more confident. I sound different. I am funnier. I'm smarter. It is easier. I can find my words. I am more accurate. And even making these videos, I have take 1 and take 2 and take 3 because of that. I think that a lot of people think that fluency is that point where when you reach it, your second language becomes as good, as comfortable as your first language. In my experience, that is not the case. So focus on the thing that will get you to the next level. And from that next level, to the next one after it, trust me, it will get you to your goals much faster. And I will say that learning a language opens doors, opportunities that you cannot imagine right now. I'm not saying this just to get you excited. I'm saying this because this is my story in my life. If I did not decide that I'm going to embark on the traveling that I did and moving to Portugal as a single girl, doing everything in English because I didn't learn Portuguese yet, and then communicating with my husband who was overseas in America, all in English, and deciding to use all my knowledge that I acquired in English to help people learn Hebrew in a way that is easier, better, more rewarding, and more fun, developing my own methods to learn Hebrew as an English speaker, my life would have been very different. And I wouldn't get to experience all the wonderful, wonderful things that I did, not to mention the family that I started here in the US. So choose your program well. Choose your method well, choose your guide well, and then show up, trust the process, and see if it's giving you more clarity and more confidence. These are the things that I would do if I had to learn Hebrew from scratch as an English speaker. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would really appreciate if you could hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And if you're thinking now, ooh, I know someone who would love this video, please share it with them. Check out my programs. Practically Speaking Hebrew is the only program you need to speak and understand Hebrew. Even if you don't know a single letter in Hebrew, it is equivalent to 3 university semesters, all jam-packed in one program. And Hebrew 1, 2, and 3 is my best-selling reading and writing program. 2 workbooks and 1 textbook. They each come with a free course where you get my feedback and support because I'm always there with you. Check out the links to both my programs. Thank you so much. Toda rabba. And I will see you in the next video. נתראה בסרטון הבא.